Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Politics Relaxed. There's a lot's happened since we last updated you on the Partygate, which is now transformed into Boris's career under pressure. We've seen the Sugre update, which is not the full report, but an update. The police have confirmed they are investigating into it, which I actually have some problems with, which is a little bit surprising. And then, and now people are announcing no confidence votes and people are leaving number 10. It's been a bit of a dramatic few weeks, to say the least. So, I mean, let's get straight into it. Is he going to go? Because I think that's the question at the minute. Is Boris going to go by his own accord? Probably not, but by the 1922 committee and the MPs, maybe.
I'm much more uncertain than I was a few weeks ago. He definitely seems to have consolidated a bit more, and the letters coming in are not as thick and fast as many people would have hoped. There is a significant negative feeling in the Conservative Party towards him, but I can't really see him losing a no confidence vote. Which in the end is a good thing for Labour if we want to be cynical about this. But I don't know, that's all.
I a few weeks ago I was cynical about this, and I was like, I wouldn't mind if Boris stays because I think Labour will win the next election. But at this point, I will be very angry if he stays our Prime Minister for a long time. Just the fact that he could even try to get away with everything that he's done, and then people like Cressida Dick, who's had a terrible few weeks as well, and is going to single-handedly damage the Met Police's, like people's confidence in the Met Police investigating, which is a purely political move at this point, and it saved Boris's skin for another few weeks. If he gets away with it, I will be absolutely fuming. I mean, I don't think I've felt this angry at a politician in a very long time, and I've been pretty disappointed with the caliber of politicians over the last few years. But at this point, it's beyond a joke. It just makes me so angry. And even a few weeks ago, I didn't feel this angry. At this point, I feel so angry that if he gets away with this, I don't know. I think everybody would lose confidence in politics, maybe in general, as well as the institutions around it, which I think this has shown them up to be not particularly strong when somebody so morally reprehensible as Boris Johnson is in charge. Cameron, Daniel, how long has he got?
Well, I'll make a point quickly. I think Boris's time's up. I don't see him going though. The people obviously want him gone. I don't think there's any doubt in that. But as long as the Conservatives hold a majority, I think that there's too many snakes and idiotic politicians in the Conservative Party to keep them on. And I think for the next election.
Okay, I mean, putting aside of the obvious insults in that statement, the basis of Daniel's argument, I think, is substantive, in that the Conservative Party need no lectures on how to get rid of a leader who is failing to successfully keep the public on side. And as I've mentioned before, one of the most popular politicians at their prime in history, Margaret Thatcher, she was taken down so easily by rebellions from the backbenchers, seeping onto the front benches, in the end with dissatisfaction at her leadership and her direction as a person. So I think that there's no doubt in my mind that the Conservative MPs will be getting very impatient at the moment. We know it's around 20 have submitted letters of no confidence already. Now, obviously, considering how many Conservative MPs there are, that is a puny number. So I am a little bit surprised by how small that number is. But what I think we're going to start to see as time goes on is this dissatisfaction rise over time. And what I think is a key thing to watch is to watch the local elections and how they pan out. Because if you remember, the May local elections for Theresa May in 2019 were the end, basically. There was obviously a very, very long slow, gradual death for her over a period of 2 years. But the May elections, when she absolutely hammered in the European elections and in the locals, was the end, and Tory MPs knifed her. You're going to see, I think, perhaps a very similar thing play out, because I'm afraid that people, the actual people who will be voting in these elections coming up, will send a message, and so I think that we may have to wait a little bit longer, sadly.
I'm interested. I mean, you're in the Conservative Party. You're friends with plenty of Conservatives. But why do you think that the Conservative? I mean, I certainly have my opinions on where they are. But why do you not think they are sending letters or really mounting a serious campaign against Boris Johnson?
So the obvious things to consider are party loyalty and certainly how that's enforced. Of course, the chief whips do appear to be doing a decent job at the moment in terms of keeping their MPs in line with party leadership. And of course, we know the ways that chief whips go about their business. Much of that's been, I think, exposed in recent weeks by William Ragg. But of course, I think that's certainly a consideration to believe. Of course, the whips will know where the bodies are buried. But also, I think that there's still yet to be this kind of really cutthroat moment where you think he's finished. We've had lots of big problems, right, so far. There's still, I think, a belief in the back of some Conservative MPs that this could be resolved, right? We've already seen he's had a clear out of his number 10 staff, who were certainly part of the problem. My concerns now, who's he going to bring in? Because who wants to go and work at number 10? It's hardly going to be a step into the right direction for their career paths, given the direction of number 10 at the moment and the Prime Minister. So yeah, I'm not sure that we'll start to see it fixed in perhaps the way that some MPs are hoping.
You know, Boris is only saving grace at the moment is that if he can survive this, then he can survive anything.
Yeah, I mean,
Not necessarily.
I mean, what more can he do though? What more evil? You know, I mean, evil maybe a little bit strong, but what worse can he? I failed to see what.
Look, Partygate. Partygate is all fine and dandy, and you can have the polling and stuff, but like the proof is in the pudding when it comes to actual elections. And as Cameron said, that the local elections are likely his next check on power before any next general election, and because that's when the public definitively shows their allegiances, where their allegiances lie, and that's when Tories can start getting antsy.
Yeah, I mean, what about this Operation Save Big Dog, or what was the other one? I forgot what it was called. Operation. There was another name for the operation. I can't remember it now. But his big saving moment, because we have three big things that he's got these last few weeks. He's got Ukraine. Can he show? I mean, he's a bit more of I'd say he's more a foreign policy guy than he is an economic guy. So this could be a big chance to prove his leadership. But he was sidetracked by answering questions on Partygate instead of hopping on a call with Vladimir Putin. So the leadership's not there on that. The second thing was the leveling up. We had a big announcement. This was meant to be the big start of leveling up, because we've seen very little evidence for it working so far. Michael Gove comes to the House and offers like no new money, and it's kind of just being put, like everything they've already announced is just put under one branch. And then they've got the third thing, which is the cost of living crisis. And what's Rishi Sunak done? He's come up with this so-called 11th hour saving moment, which is actually just a £200 loan to people, which they eventually have to pay back, which I thought was pretty lackluster. So his three big like challenges, if you will, that he's had to prove himself. For me, he's just proven that he's a terrible leader, and that this is weighing him down. And I literally cannot see any reason why he's still in number 10.
Well, I think that you're certainly right about the levelling up white paper. I thought that was that completely fell flat in my mind. I was disappointed. we've heard obviously so much promise around this agenda, and there was not much in it at all. That was a deep concern. Of course, these issues with regional equality, regional economic equality, do require lots of intricate details and intricate policies. And for sure, we've had plenty of specific things, but there's yet to be this kind of big moment where you're kind of pushing through lots of investment. We're seeing like science centres, education centres open up, investment banks, these kinds of things. But what I'd really like to see is specific concepts for, say, redevelopment in cities, brownfield sites, for example. What are you going to do with them in cities such as Hull, Newcastle, Sunderland? These areas that are frankly in need of redevelopment. These are the issues that I think absolutely the government should be focused on, rather than these more intricate details. Of course, they can do things in tandem. The problem is the Chancellor, I think, is pretty unwilling to hand out money at the moment, given the fiscal circumstances, which is understandable, but there are workarounds.
Yeah, and I mean, what the Labour's been proposing this windfall tax on, like there are definitely other ways he could go about this if he wanted to. And I mean, I was just going to say as well that Newcastle won't get any levelling up because they all voted Labour still, so they certainly won't be seeing any of that money. But I was listening to Michael Gove when he was doing the media rounds on the day of this white paper, and they've already spent about a quarter of. It was only one part of the levelling up plan, but they've already spent. They announced 4 billion. I forgot. I wasn't listening particularly intently on the specific details, but they've already spent 1 billion, or at least on just some of the levelling up stuff, and people aren't feeling it, from what I can gather. People haven't felt the effects of it, and the proof's in the pudding. You can have a terrible botched announcement, but if people feel a difference in their lives, then I think it will come off as a success. But it was a botched announcement, and people haven't felt any of it yet.
Of course, these issues with regional equality will be solved certainly in the long term, but this government have been in place now for a couple of years, so you would have hoped that people would be feeling better about their lives, at least as though certain promise had been shown. Obviously, perhaps people were certainly feeling this in May last year when the Conservatives pulled off massive election wins in the north. You see Hartlepool, the Tees Valley Mayor Ben Houchen being re-elected, these sorts of things. But now I feel like it's that vibe is dying a bit. And again, this will be an interesting thing to watch, how the Conservatives do in the council elections in the north. That will tell us really how these things are going down. Because to be honest, I mean, obviously we've had Brexit, we've had the pandemic. These things have caused economic issues in the short term, but people should have been starting to feeling now as though investment was hitting their areas, and they should feel that in the form of actual money and their environment changing and improving. I'm not sure that we're seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, just Piers or Daniel, do you have any points on this? No. All right.
I was in Hull a few weeks ago. Uninvestment in the area, lack of any real care by the government, and all of this talk from the Conservatives saying that they're investing, so and so. It's just a bunch of piffle, isn't it? It's not really making any difference to the individuals' lives in these places. I mean, I don't know where it's going. Is it going to the Tory Friends? Like, where is it going? If it's clearly not helping individual people in the north.
Yeah, I was just going to say, though, that there is potential in all of these cities. It's not like they're terrible places. They're terrible places because of lack of government investment and because we had 10 years of Tory austerity that have run down loads of places in the UK. And, for example, local councils will be hit really hard by austerity. So the local areas are not looking good, and especially in the north. But there are these shining lights. There are places all across the country that show what the north could be, but the government are just not harnessing it at all, and they're not putting nearly enough thought or money or even care into this because there's no real leadership anymore. And then we come to this next issue, because we focus on levelling up a bit, which is the cost of living crisis. And yesterday we had Rishi Sunak's big announcement, and there was nothing real there, and that could actually damage Rishi Sunak's reputation as well. I think a lot of people's reputation is going to feel some damage by sticking with Boris. Every single member of Parliament of the Conservative Party who hasn't sent in a letter of no confidence yet should feel shame, because it's killing this country, literally. We're weighed down by Boris Johnson's inability to do anything apart from party, it seems. And I struggle to even put it into words how disappointed and angry I am at the people who have the ability to at least try and get Boris Johnson out and are not doing anything. Every single cabinet minister who continues to stand by Boris Johnson, every single advisor who continues to stand by Johnson. I mean, they should all feel absolute shame.
Well, I mean, of course, these things are subjective, and people will feel differently about it to you. But certainly, I would agree that it's disappointing to see how few MPs have been submitting letters so far. I think that the rational thing to do, certainly from a Conservative point of view, is surely to consider new leadership. And I think Rishi Sunak is certainly differentiating himself from the PM. Yes, I can understand your disappointment at the cost of living announcements this week. Of course, there are fiscal responsibilities and considerations to make, but I mean, this is going to hit people hard, and they're going to be hit hard by so many things at once. You see the interest rates rising, a lot of people on lower incomes borrow, so this is going to hit them as well. I have massive sympathy for people who are really under the cosh at the moment. So yeah, I think that, of course, this is now a difficult situation for the government to handle. And in a situation like this, you need someone who's on top of the details. And my fear is that the PM is not one of those.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to wrap up in literally 1 second, but I mean, it's fiscal responsibility when it comes to the poorest people in society being hit by rising gas prices and rising food prices. But when it comes to £4.7 billion going to COVID fraudsters, or £9 billion going to like bogus PPE, that both of them are treasury figures, it's no longer fiscal responsibility. And Rishi Sunak said, oh, he's going to do anything to get that money back. But I mean, £4.7 billion, £9 billion. Bogus PPE got much more money than levelling up is currently getting. And well, I think I've made my feelings clear in this episode.
Walls, hasn't there?
Sorry?
There's just been billions wasted by this government that could have gone to so-called levelling up. I think that it's ultimately time for a new party, new system in the way we run our country.
Yeah. I think we've covered it pretty well. I'm sure next week we'll have a completely different picture with the way that things are shaping up. It's going to be interesting to watch. But thank you very much for watching. Please like the video, subscribe. I mean, what do you think of Boris? Put it down in the comments below. And thank you very much for watching.